Others live out their lives hardly venturing beyond the walls of their village or steading. But you are different. Your sworn vows will lead to a life of danger, heroism, and sacrifice at the edge of the known world. This is Ironsworn.
Finny and DG lead the way. New RPG systems every day. Dice roll, quick adventure calls. Walking through tabletops, golden halls. Masters of pen and paper. RPGs of every flavor. Talking about different creators. The choice of games is never greater. Come with us to games they run through. New, old, and interesting. Thank you all for listening.
Welcome in, everybody, to the show, episode 17, Masters of Pen and Paper. I am your host, DG, and this is my main man.
Finny, what's up, people?
Dude, I am so ready because this is the very first solo RPG that we've done on this channel, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Like this one was it was a difficult read, but it was a fun read.
It's not one of those that you can just sit down and page through real easy. It's got a little funk to it.
Coming off all those ultralights, this one was a little bit like, wow, 300 pages, huh? Cool. Yeah.
So Ironsworn is created by Sean Tomkin, and it was released in 2018. He's got a revised version that was revised in 2019, I believe. Mm-hmm. He, coincidentally, is also a contributor to the game design and writing for Dragonbane, which we did.
Yeah, that was so cool. I randomly found Dragonbane. And I had no idea Ironsworn even existed. So It's so cool to see these little stitches that happen between games where it's like, hey, like we've had it with a couple of the other ones that have come up here as well. Some of those ultralights, right? Really cool. And Dragonsbane was fun too. The duck class. Yeah. You don't see enough mallard classes.
Exactly. We need more mallard class. Ironsworn is, and I quote, widely recognized as a progenitor to the rise of solo RPGs, as well as having the prestige of winning an ENnie Award. Now, an ENnie Award is given to basically indie TTRPG writers and designers.
Okay.
They, send it out there. And
it's a pretty hefty accomplishment.
It is a very big accomplishment.
Well done, sir. Good job.
It comes equipped with what is called an oracle, and that's basically a series of tables that you roll on when you ask a question to it, and we'll get into that a lot later. This is, again, very dumbed down. He credits his inspiration to games such as Apocalypse World, City of Judas, Dungeon World, Fate, and Mythic, a GM emulator. Now, I believe Mythic, the GM emulator, is the first kind of Oracle, quote unquote, that was
the beta
that came along. Yeah. And this is
it's designed as a solo RPG.
Designed, I think, as a solo RPG. Yeah. But it can be played as a group with or without a GM. And that's very cool.
All games that you'll hear about, your table is your own.
That's right.
You do what makes the most fun. If it makes the most fun to play this in a group setting, then by golly, you just go right on ahead and do that.
And if it's just you sitting in front of your computer screen, go for it.
If you're playing as a group, but you're the only one in the room, you know what? There's other things you might want to look into, but for the time being, it's fine.
The PDF version is available completely for free on DriveThruRPG. I believe there will be a link in the description for that.
Yeah, we'll include a link in the description as well. So, I think it's important to identify, because we're about to get into the guts, because that's kind of how this thing works. I really need to stress this. There is a lot of things going on in this book. There's 300 pages, and a solo RPG is different from a group RPG. In a group RPG, you go, players, here is your rules. GM, here are my rules. And I take my GM and I look at the player stuff and I kind of combine, and the players just need to handle the player stuff. You, as the person who's in control of all things, in addition to playing your own game, there's a wide variety of rules here. Not only is there a wide variety of rules here, but there are tables on tables on tables on tables on tables. And
I do love tables.
And we're probably going to be a little high level in the game, because the book itself even jumps around quite a bit. We are going to be jumping around quite a bit as well. And so it's really important that I identify this to you, that there's possibilities we may miss a couple things here and there, but we will ensure that the bulk of the game, the base of the game, is what we cover.
Yeah, if you are familiar with Ironsworn, don't hold it against us.
Please don't hold it against us.
Going to present this.
Yeah, just know that it is something like, if you are interested in solo RPGs, 1, it's completely free. 2, this is one that you can set up and run yourself, so you get a lot of time for you, right? Because all the prep and play happens at your own
your
leisure.
pace.
Yeah. So,
and I would dare say that this is like the solo RPG to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
if you're gonna get into
very much,
this is what you
it's
do.
very prim and proper with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, sorry, Finn.
Anyways,
we're ready for the nuts and bolts when you're ready.
All right. So the base system we're working with here is completely unique to what we've covered in anything so far. Now, there are similar dice being used, but we use them very differently. I'm going to call it a challenge and attack system.
Yep.
For lack of a better designation, I guess. So we have challenge dice, which are 2d10, and then we have an attack dice, which is a d6.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get onto how that all works later
bits,
on. But yeah, it's a very cool system that way. It's like I say, we've never covered anything like this before.
No, and it's really cool because the concept behind the challenge dice is that it's a randomized like DR, right? Like it is completely randomized difficulty ratings, so that when you roll a skill check, it shifts that around and then has you roll the d6 to go against that with the addition of your stats, and it adds a right?
Yeah.
So when you make a jump across a river, it's not the same jump you made every single time. You jump across and then you jump back. You'll have 2 completely different challenges here.
It throws a lot of chaos.
There's a lot of chaos going on in there, which I like. That is really cool.
If anything, we love chaos in this podcast.
It makes it almost so that you can't fudge the numbers, right? Because you are rolling them at the same time. Like, in order for you to fudge the numbers, you have to literally look at those dice and cheat, right? Like,
yes, I will clarify. We roll 2d10 and the d6 at the same time.
That's correct.
Compare them.
Yeah.
It works best, I believe, if you... Well, no, I guess it doesn't work best, but you could use 2 different colored dice.
Yep.
For the Oracle, that's another set of dice. That
we'll get into that.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, let's get into the fun part, like the creating our character stuff.
Yeah. Character creation in this game is really cool and complicated.
It is.
Because it's basically the bulk of the game, right?
It's pretty in-depth.
In a solo RPG, the character sheet better be cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, the character sheet in itself is very cool.
It's designed really cool.
It's got 2 rows along the sides of the edges that you either have to put paper clips or markers of some sort, because you're always shifting up and down these slides. It's really cool.
Like the sheet, like it literally says it in the book that to use paper clips to track these numbers, right? Because you've got momentum on one side, and then you've got health, spirit, and supply on the other side. And you're these numbers are constantly changing.
They're always moving.
So it's designed for you to literally slip a paper clip over the top there and move that around to help track. I thought that was a really cool idea. I like that. I like interesting character sheets. Those are cool.
This character sheet is very interesting.
Absolutely.
So onto character creation. The first thing we need is a name, an epic name, because every epic story has a hero, and every hero starts with a name. Now, if you're stuck, included in the back of the book is a handy little Ironland names generator tool for you. And it's just a D100 table that you roll your 2D10 across. This is on page 184 for those following along. It just basically has a whole bunch of names that are native to the Ironlands. It's very cool.
Call yourself Aragorn and just get it over with.
Yeah, exactly. Because why wouldn't we be, right?
Or Johnny McSlash, right? Like
yes, or
Sword McShield face.
Paladin Man.
Claire Rick. I mean, there's a lot you could do here. I'm just saying, there's a lot of ways you could go with
There's
this.
a lot here, yeah. Now, I will say that I didn't actually find any character classes, so to speak.
Right.
There were no classes.
Yeah, I didn't see anything like that either. No. Right. Like because you're
very interesting.
It's not that kind of game, right?
It's
like
not that kind. No, it is
it's a light fantasy is the best I could come up with, right? Like
yeah,
it can be anything you want it to be, but the default settings. It's light fantasy. So rather than a class, you're not a paladin or a cleric. You're just you and then you have skills.
And you have skills.
Man, woman,
very
child,
particular set of skills for
cat
very
person.
Particular. It is geared towards. They said in the book that it is geared towards a human.
Yeah,
but there is nothing to stop you from fudging some of the numbers in the character generation to make a elf or a dwarf or something.
You do. It's your game. Your fun is
your
valid.
Game. You can hack it however you feel, because at the very end of it, he tells you how to hack this.
That's right. That's the best part.
Yeah. We have 5 stats.
Yep.
We have edge, which is your agility, your quickness, your agility, your prowess in ranged combat.
Yep.
We have heart, which is your charisma, your courage, your willpower, your empathy, your sociability, and your loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
We have iron, which is your strength, and your con, which is physical strength, endurance, aggressiveness, and prowess in close combat. Mm-hmm. We have shadow, which is stealth, deception, kind of sneakiness, deceptiveness, cunningness. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, we have wits, which is kind of like your intelligence. We got your expertise, your knowledge, and your observation all kind of bundled into one little package there. Now, these stats are generated through an array. Now, we haven't actually covered how arrays will work usually. Now, this is just a series of numbers that you can take and you just plop them in willy-nilly, however you feel like.
Yeah, the arrays in this game would essentially be the classes.
Yeah. So we have our array in this game is 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Yep. So you got 1, 3 stat that you can plop into whichever one of those you want to be real good at.
Yep.
And then you got 2 2s to plop into 2 of those, and then 2 1s that your dump
stats. I mean, and that's the concept, right? This is how you're building your class. Are you a stealthy person? Are you a martial fighter? Are you a ranged fighter? Are you the smart guy, right? Like, what is it that you want this character to be? Because what we're going to find out is that we're actually designing the game as we go too. Your character is going to have a bunch of other stuff that we're going to create, and we'll go into some of this. But the character you make is really important because you're also going to have to make the adventure too.
I will say that the point array system of character generation, of stat generation, is the most balanced through any RPG. If it's Dungeons and Dragons, the point array system is the most balanced way to make a character.
Yeah.
Same with Pathfinder, all of them. They're all,
the array is intended to be balanced.
Intended to be balanced. Yeah. You don't have the huge swings of the plus 20 and the -6 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So after we get our stats, we go on to our health. Now, we lose health starts at +5.
Yep.
Now, if we lose all of our health, we're not dead. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, but the thing is that, so you're not, because the thing is that your adventure would be over real fast if you just hit 0 and you died.
Exactly.
The idea here is that when you hit 0, you have a permanent negative attached to your character, which is essentially they call it debility in this game.
They call it debility.
You could be at risk of dying. It depends on what happens, right? This is where the oracle and all the dice rolling and all the other stuff comes in. But essentially, there is a move called Endure Harm. That's on page 91. And when that happens, if you drop to 0, bad things take place. That's really what you need to know here.
That's all you got. Then we move to our spirit. Our spirit is our current mental state, and we start at rank +5 again, and it reduces when we take
endure stress.
It's called endure stress, which is as anybody does.
if we were talking about, like, we did Call of Cthulhu, right? And they had a stress system in their game.
They had a stress,
very similar, right? Like this is essentially the same kind of idea. You have a second health bar essentially. Again, and drops to 0, bad things happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we have supply. Now, so I love supply.
Supply is a cool idea. I like it too.
It is a very cool idea because we don't really have an inventory, so to say, in Ironsworn.
Yeah, you got a bag.
We got a bag, and that bag is filled with a bunch of stuff.
It's got stuff in it.
And if you need a certain thing, you reach into your bag and you probably pull out that thing that you need. If you have enough supply.
That's right.
So supply is an abstract representation of how prepared you are.
Yeah.
This is a generalization of about 90% of your inventory, handling mostly the mundane stuff like food, water, ammo, this news fest stuff that nobody cares about.
Yeah, you're not reaching into your bag and pulling out a +3 longsword or something like that, right? Like this is your basic stuff that you track. The stuff in this area is the stuff you put onto your character sheet at the beginning of a Dungeons and Dragons session and never change again.
Yes.
This is the rope.
This is the grappling hook, the rope,
the tinder box.
Roll. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like it's like, box. I have one of those, and you use it one time and never again. That's what's inside the supply. Yeah. I love it.
Such a cool idea.
This is a great idea, and out of all the things in this game, this is probably one I will integrate into future. I know I've said it before on this podcast. I really dislike the concept of encumbrance. I dislike the concept of food and water and stopping and making sure that you've got enough rations and blah, blah, blah. All of that kind of mealy stuff. I like this. Roll. Because if you pass the roll, it's in your bag. And if you fail the roll, it's not in your bag. It's that simple.
Yeah, exactly. Certain things might make you raise or lower your supply rating. So let's say you are fording a strong river and you roll your challenge dice and they roll pretty high, and you roll your attack dice and they roll pretty low, as ours usually do.
Yep.
You have a chance that, and if your story makes sense with this, because I will say this right now, there's a major focus on story.
Everything surrounds the story.
Game.
Yep.
This is the story-based game.
It's a solo adventure. It has to be this way.
Exactly. So anyways, you might have a chance of losing some of your gear, which you take your supply rating, which starts at +5, and you knock it down one notch. So you're... Maybe if the journey went on for like 2 more days longer than you had thought, you might be running out of supplies.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you can do a move called gain supplies or some... I can't remember off the top. Resupply, that's the one thing.
Yeah, it's on page 63.
Yes, and that will get you another increase in your supply. Yeah. So that's supply. A very cool little mechanic.
Yep.
Next up, we have momentum. Momentum is the representation of how you are faring in your quest.
Yep.
If you have positive momentum, you are building towards succeeding in your quest. You are building in making the right decisions and turning the right paths. If you have a low momentum, like a negative momentum, you are in jeopardy of losing sight of your goals during your quest. And that's a really cool kind of way of doing things too. You can use momentum to eliminate the action dice and automatically succeed or fail on your challenge ratings. And this will, of course, you do have a reset value as well. And that starts at +2.
Typically, it's at +2. Yeah.
There are certain things that move that.
Increase it or decrease it.
Or decrease it, as well as a maximum of +10.
That's right, yeah.
Next up, we have vows. Now, these are the core mechanic of this game. These are what drives your character forward and what they're working to and why they are out in the Iron Lands doing their Iron Land man thing.
Yeah.
You know, we write a background vow first, and this represents a primary motivation or your ultimate goal. Now, I will say that this does not have to be a goal that you can succeed at. This is something like, hey, this clan wronged me in the past and I vow to exterminate that clan. Well, you're not going to do that.
You're not just going to walk in there and get rid of them.
You're not going to walk in. No.
You might have a couple steps before you get there.
And even at the end of the game, you probably won't be able to just walk in and just destroy the whole clan. So, but it gives you something to work towards, something to better yourself, to make it better.
And that's why we have to identify then basically what's our first step. So we have the long-term goal, that's vow number 1, and we have a short-term goal, that's vow number 2.
Our inciting incident, which is if you're playing as a party, this is what brings your party together, a common goal that you can accomplish with a couple steps, but not, something that is very accomplishable. Completing vows gains you XP.
Yeah.
Now,
this is your experience in the world.
This is your experience part, and this is how you progress through the game. Now, experience points you don't level up.
There's no levels.
There's no level
You're
up.
just you.
Yeah. That's why there's no class. There's no level ups. There's no benefits gained.
Still just you.
What you do is you take your XP and you use it to buy assets. Now, assets come in 4 different flavors. We have companions, which is like familiars, the little rodent that sits in your pocket, like Boo, one would say.
Yep.
We have paths, and this is like the path of the berserker or something. It gives you additional stuff. And then there's combat talents, and these are,
fighter
your combat
abilities.
Moves. Yeah, your tornado swing with the double-headed axe, stuff like that. And then we have rituals.
It's self-describing.
It's a ritual. Yep.
There's various
it's the magics.
There's various things within each one of these lists, right?
Yes.
There is a wide variety. The game encourages you to print out cards for all of these things. And so you could basically then grab the corresponding card for the companion that you choose, and then it goes into your thing. You can track it. It has you like the ideal situation is print out the card, stick it in one of those like sleeves, and then use a dry erase marker to kind of mark off, because there's also things on that card that change with stuff. I'm not being like a high level on purpose. I'm just trying to say there's many companions, and each of those companions has their own little set of things that goes into it. And then
different things.
Rinse and repeat for paths, combat talents, and rituals. Like there's a big stack of cards that you can print. You can also purchase the cards if you'd like to buy like the actual official thing, but they provide those to you for free as well. You just print them.
I was going to say the cards you can get off the website for free and print them off in your own home.
Do you?
So our inciting incident, the one that kind of combines
What
our
kickstarted
party
our-
and makes
what
the
kickstarted
glue
our
that
adventure?
makes us together. Yes. The checklist goes as such. Make it personal. So make it about
The clan that we're
you
trying to
or
wipe
the
out,
party.
they just took
Yeah.
something out of ours. It was really important.
Something
to us.
that is very personal. They came and stole your sister, and they're going to do God knows what to your sister.
Terrible.
Make it a problem that won't go away on its own.
Makes sense. Sister's not coming back.
That's right. Give it a ticking clock.
That is already self-explanatory.
That is already self-explanatory. Make it universal. Now, this is the party-wide vow that makes it so that you and your party, that's why they join up to help you. So you get your buddies and say, hey, we got to go rescue my sister.
My sister is the princess of the village, and she is slated to take the crown in a week's time.
Yes.
And if she doesn't do this, our village is going to fall to ruin.
That's the next step, upping the stakes.
Boom.
Envision complications which make your inciting incident even more dire to you, your family, or your community.
Love it.
And then lastly, we limit the scope.
Yeah.
Unlike your background vow, this is something that you can deal with and you must deal with now.
We can track the bandits. We see their footprints. We know what direction they're going.
Let's go. We ride at dawn.
And there it is. It's that simple.
There you go.
And that's
our
meat.
character.
That's built.
Ta-da.
We built the character. We have the concept of the campaign. We are basically ready to start playing this game.
Yes. We can start right now.
At this point, we are live, right? We're ready to rock and roll.
We grab our D10s and our D6s and we hit the hay.
The old dusty trail.
Now, the setting of the Ironlands is very cool.
Yep.
I would say it's dystopian Middle Earth.
Yep. Yep.
Like
with less magic.
With a lot less magic. Maybe like dystopian Middle Ages.
Yeah.
It's very gritty. It's Nordic kind of feeling. It's low fantasy. The crops are failing. It's always cold. It's cloudy. There's swords and blacksmiths are hard to come by. Your main weapons are axes and spears and sticks and clubs.
And I thought that was a cool point, that it was like good swords are hard to come by, because it's like this is not an area where you're gonna find a pristine sword. You might find a sword, but it's like rusty and busted up and in rough shape, because there's not somebody to just, give you the pristine mithril sword and armor kind of thing, right? Like
there are no +3 weapons here.
No.
There's no plus anything's weapons. There's no weapons that do special damages.
Exactly. And it does identify, if you would rather play your own setting, you can do so, right? Like it is not locking you down to this. This is the standard setting for the game.
The book does tell you how to create your own world.
That's right, yeah.
And how to flesh that out enough to make it playable.
Exactly.
But this is the setting that comes along with it, so that's why we cover it.
That's what it is. The default setting.
That's right.
And even though the setting is low fantasy, right, like we've been talking about, the game does come with a bestiary. That starts on page 133. And that has things like basilisks, elves, trolls. There's like horrors like the Bone Walker and the Chimera. So, I mean, it's not like you're just fighting other people. Right? Like there are monsters in this game. They do exist. So it's not no fantasy. It's kind of light fantasy, right? Like you've kind of got that concept, but I get the reason why they want to do that is because when you're your solo RPG, you don't get a class, you don't get all these other things. So it's got to keep it balanced, and that is one of the way that it does it.
Yeah. Without having classes and that power surging moment of hitting level 3 and you getting your subclass and all that cool crap, you got to keep it played close to home. Yeah. And it's, with it being a solo oriented RPG, it's got to be simplified down to the important things, which are story, mechanics. And that's about it.
Exactly. So it's the power creep isn't really super present, which I like that. I like the concept that you're always squishy all the time.
harm.
Yep.
When you attack and hurt things,
Yep.
you only do 1 damage.
That's correct.
Unless you have a sword that is in particularly good shape, then you can do 2 damage.
Exactly.
But that's the extent of it. You're not rolling D10s.
No, and we'll get into the details for moves, right? Because there is like the concept behind that is essentially each one of the moves has its own kind of consequence essentially that goes with it.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's very balanced that way.
Speaking of moves, that is your primary action. That's how things happen in this game.
There are a lot
There's
of moves.
a lot of moves. They start on page 49. But there are 6 categories of moves, 34 moves in total. Some of them you're going to use them like all the time. And some of them, you might use them here or there. But the thing about moves is that each one has its own kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not like all combat is the same, right? It's all different. Everything's different. It has its own pluses and it has its own minuses across the board, right?
Yeah.
And I had gone and doing some research for the game here. I had stumbled across a creator that had an interview with Sean, with the creator of the game. And Sean had basically said the reason why this was done was that it's a way to pull out narratives. So the moves are built in this way in order for you to go, okay, if this move failed, this is the result of that. This is now the narrative of that. This is where we're at, right? Cause and effect almost kind of thing, right?
This is the emergent storytelling coming out.
Exactly.
And we love emergent storytelling.
It's so good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A bit tough to learn, but
yeah,
I think like the learning curve is a little steep right at first, but I would think once you get the hang of this, it would be smooth sailing from there. And again, print the moves out, put them on cards.
I was going to say it would be a lot easier if they're physically in front of you.
Yeah, you would be able to do that.
Scroll through a PDF.
34 moves. There's a lot of moves.
So essentially with your move, what you're going to do is you're going to identify what you're going to do and how you're going to go about it. Now, the book says fiction first, then move, which is page 50. And this roughly means that you're going to really think about the parts of what you're about to do versus the risks and how you want it all to play out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I was saying with the concept of moves here, it really wants you to think about the story, right? We mentioned that it's always at the center point of everything. So when they say fiction first, then move, it's the idea of I'm chasing the bandit down. I attempted to throw a rock at them, and this is now the result of that, right? And it's not good enough to just say I throw the rock and then roll the dice. No, you got to throw the rock, and then you have to identify what are the things that could go right, what are the things that could go wrong, what's the worst case scenario here, because it's got to be things that aren't like safe choices. Right? Running down a path with no risk whatsoever, that's the safe choice. We don't need to roll on that. You're just going to do it.
Well, that's boring.
That's boring.
Yeah. There's no story there.
But the bandits throw a handful of caltrops behind them. Now you have something to do because you're dodging now.
That's right. And this also plays into how the challenge and attack dice, challenge and action dice work, because you can succeed at only one of your challenge dice and not both of them, and that basically changes how effective your move is.
Yeah.
And every move comes with a strong hit, a weak hit, and a miss.
Yeah.
And that what happens during that.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, for example, there's a move called Strike, right? Strike is something that you're likely going to use because it's kind of like your standard attack, right? And so Strike is on page 79, for example. Strike has its own page, just so you know. Like, there's a lot going on here, but it says you'd make this move when you have initiative and act to inflict harm on your foe. Narratively, this move might represent a focused moment in time, a single sweep of your axe or flight of an arrow, or depict a flurry of attacks as you put your opponent on the defensive. So this is your standard run-of-the-mill attack. Then you have a strong hit, a weak hit, and a miss, right?
Yeah.
And in all of those cases, different things happen. On a strong hit, you inflict +1 harm. On a weak hit, you inflict your harm, but you lose the initiative. And then on a miss, your attack fails, and you must pay the price, which is another move. It's a different thing. You'd flip
another thing.
You'd flip over to there, and then you would walk through that. And now the enemy has initiative. The enemy is going to strike next time.
And I believe pay the price is a D100 roll.
Yeah, it's a big, well, so there's a couple of things with pay the price, right? So essentially it boils down to like, what's the most obvious negative outcome? So I swipe my sword and I miss. The most obvious negative outcome is that I'm likely open for a parry attack now at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If that's not cool enough, because there's options.
And it never is.
Let's say, for example, there's two things. Now, potentially I'm left open for a parry, or I drop my weapon. Well, now
slips out of your hand.
I can put those two outcomes to the oracle and roll on the table provided to determine what takes place.
And that's a yes or no question to the oracle.
Or, as a last option, there is a provided table, and that's the D100 table you're referring to, that I can just roll in this D100 table and determine what takes place now. And
I know what I would be doing.
If it didn't make sense of that table, you can roll again. That's fine. It gives you that option.
Yeah.
Because again, the focus goes to the fiction. I gotta know, man. What would happen for you? Walk me through it.
I'm always rolling on that table.
That table is awesome. I love that table.
You swing, you miss. You roll a 10 to 16. You are separated from something or someone. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, you get separated from your party because they go rushing ahead to attack the rest of the guys, and you are stuck one-on-oneing with this guy.
Yeah. And I mean,
very cool.
And they identify too on the bottom of page 79, right, on a miss. Your opponent could strike back and you endure harm. You could lose your position or advantage and suffer momentum. You could face a new or intensified danger. Maybe another person comes out of the woods and now you're fighting two instead of one. A companion or an ally is put in harm's way. Your weapon's dropped or broken. It's the concept here is sometimes it makes sense for it to be the obvious thing, but it opens the door for multiple solutions here. The story is paramount. It is the most important thing to pull the fiction from the game rather than win the game.
Sean says right in the book, if it makes sense that would happen, make it happen.
That's right. Yeah.
If you miss and it makes sense that you cut off your foot, I'm sorry, but you're cutting your foot off. I guess
that's the way it works. And you better get a peg because you're going to be attaching it to your leg.
That's another thing that I like about this is it's so story driven that really cool. It is silly.
And with it being solo too, you don't have to, this is for the people who like want to RP but don't want to do it in front of other people. Here you go. This is your opportunity. Not only that, but it's an opportunity to even practice, right? For you to kind of walk through that kind of stuff, and you could envision these fights
in your head,
in your mind. You could do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
So then we kind of get into, okay, so that was the move. Fine. Right. We swung. We need to actually roll, right? Because we've been talking about strong hits, weak hits, and misses.
We've been talking about that. So let's get into that.
Let's walk through and how do we actually do it?
So we take our 2d10, which is our two 10-sided dice.
Challenge dice.
Our challenge dice and our d6.
The action die.
And we shake them together and we roll them out and let them stay.
Yep.
And then we look at the numbers on the D10s.
Yep.
Now, these are ranging from 1 is 1, 0 is a 10.
0 is a 10. Don't pull something on yourself. You can't roll a 0, you roll a 10.
You cannot roll a 0. Because you can only roll a 1 on your action dice.
That's right.
That's the lowest you can roll.
Correct.
Now, if your action dice plus your modifiers that are applicable at this point, and the move will tell you what is applicable and not.
Yep.
That if your action dice plus modifiers is higher than either of your challenge dice or both, you succeed.
That's right.
Now, if it's only 1, it is a weak hit. And if it is both of them, it is a strong hit.
It's really important to hear that again. If it is higher than the challenge dice, ties
equal
don't pass.
Ties go to the challengers.
That's right. So if you are rolling, if your D6 is a 3 and the D10 is also a 3, you failed. Because you need to beat it. This is not meet or beat. This is a beat system.
Yes.
So your D6 plus your attributes, and if there's any adds, sometimes you'll have things that will add modifiers.
Sometimes there'll be a +1 here.
It's all situational.
Somewhere.
But that number, if it does not beat the number on the D10, it is not a pass. It is a fail. You have to beat it. You cannot match or fall below that number.
That's right. Now, we can burn momentum.
That's right. To pass it. To auto pass
it. If your momentum score is higher than the challenge dice, you can burn your momentum to automatically succeed against challenge. Now, if it's higher than, say you have a momentum of 5, and one of your challenge dice comes up as a 4 and one comes up as a 6, you can burn your momentum and succeed against the 4, but you will fail against
the 6.
That is, of course, after you rolled your 2 on your action dice.
Correct.
And you go, oh, I don't want to miss here. I want to at least weak hit it.
Sometimes the consequence is going to be really bad. And so you have to determine whether or not you're giving up some of your resources in order to make that happen. Hey, your momentum might already be burnt. And then I guess you're just getting more story elements now.
When I say burn, you always, once momentum is burned, it gets set back to its reset value, which is typically a +2, but it is known to move that. There are things that move that
the kind of default
or minus. State. Yes. But that is the guts of the mechanics.
That's the mechanics
of the system
of how it is.
Is the 2d10 versus the d6. And I love this system.
It's a really cool concept with the 2d10 being the challenge dice. I like the rotating challenge rating. Like that is really cool.
I like it. Is very fluid. Yeah.
You rolled your d6 and now you've missed. So you didn't even pass one.
You didn't even make any of them.
Misses are likely going to result in some form of consequence, but likely this will be the pay the price that we mentioned earlier. However, there are times when other bad things could happen. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay the price. Sometimes just something bad. You're going to lose some supply. You're going to lose some health. You're going to lose some you're going to gain some stress. Things can happen based on your moves. It's not always going to be combat.
It also depends on the narrative that's happening when you roll. Because you're not going to lose a foot trying to cross the river. You're likely going to get wet and lose supplies.
Exactly.
On the off chance you might get your foot stuck on a rock.
It's possible, yes.
But we got to rewind just a little bit back to the challenge dice. If you roll doubles on your challenge dice, this is a new complication comes into things.
We said it was going to be complicated.
And it gets worse. Because, so say you roll your challenge dice and it comes up 5s, 2 5s. Okay. Well, screw rolling or screw taking your action dice and putting it against that. No. Something else happens that comes out of left field in towards you. A bugbear comes out of the forest to attack you while you're fighting the bandit. You know, stuff like that. It's something where a major twist happens in the narrative right here.
Yeah, exactly. I love that it's like layers of complexities, right? It makes it a little bit tough to keep track of some of the things that are going on. So you're really going to need to be kind of fluid with how the game works. But I like the concept that it's like this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this, right? And that it just adds another layer of complexity into the story, giving you another jump point for your fiction, for the what we're doing here, right?
It's just another point where your story can evolve into something else.
Yeah.
I love emergent storytelling.
It is, yeah.
It's one of the coolest things that happens when you're playing a game. And something like this, where just the roll of the dice, all of a sudden, boom, your story pivots.
Yep. And you're given a surprise. Like it's just like
instead of going right, you have to go left.
In D&D, when the GM gives you something and everyone on the table is like, no way! Like, you're doing this as you're playing a solo game. And that's what makes it so unique and awesome. It's something that I really love about it, right? So speaking of like running the game and like operating, because you are the GM, right? Again, we said you could run this for a group if you wanted to, but I mean, the concept is that you are both the player, the GM, the everything, right?
Yes.
The GM advice for the game, it's present and stitched throughout the entire book.
It is everywhere. This is written as a GM book.
Yeah.
Rather than a player guide.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, right? Like it's not split like a normal game would have been.
The whole kit and
thing.
caboodle all done. Yeah.
And I mean, and that makes sense since it's designed as a solo RPG, but the gameplay in depth starts on page 193. This is where it's like starting your campaign, giving you rundowns on the mechanics, all the different things. This is an area you do not want to skip over, right? There's a lot of crunchy stuff in here that you need to know, that we can't get into the guts of it. There's just too much in this.
We don't do 2-episode games.
To get into all of the specifics. So it does identify the difference between group play and solo play on page 227 and 228. And then it tells you, if you're playing as the GM, 229, this is the instructions that you need to do. Gives you concepts for like how many players, the number of players you're running, if it's a one shot, the scene challenges, all of these other things. And then we get to page 237, which you kind of had mentioned earlier, which identifies as hacking Ironsworn. And it basically says like, look, if you want to change the game, here's how you do it. Here's how you make the donuts, right? Like you could do whatever you want here to shift it into high magic, to make it a different genre, to remove pieces, to add things, whatever you want to do. Here's how you could do it. Simple.
I love it when content creators do this because it makes their game so much more open to so many more people. Infinitely
more replayable. And it also tells you that the person who created it really cares about this game, right? Like they see how they can take what they've got and turn it into something else. And that's really cool.
I will say, I believe he did do that because he's got a couple different versions of this. For sure. Ironsworn Delve, and then there is another one. Very neat.
Yeah.
Anyways, towards the end of the book, starting on page 164, is where we get the Oracle.
Yeah.
Now, the Oracle.
This is your automation.
I love this.
Yep.
This is something that is. So the Oracle is it's a collection of tables. Now, these tables answer specific questions. Now you have to know which question to ask the Oracle as to what you're going to get out of it. It's what allows you to play this game solo and right out of the box. You don't need any add-ons to play this solo. It's all encased in this 300-page book, how to play this game solo.
Yep.
You don't need anything. So what we do is we roll. So we ask our question. We got to figure out what question we want to ask our Oracle.
That's right.
And then we roll the Oracle dice, which is 2d10, making yourself a d100 roll. Then we check your roll against the table that the Oracle will reveal the answer to you on the relevant table that you need. Because if you're looking for the theme and you roll on the combat action table, you're not going to get the right answer to your question.
For sure. Yeah, you have to ask it to the appropriate table. That is number one. Yes. Ask your question, choose an appropriate table.
Then you consider the answer in the context of your question and the current situation. Is the result a good fit, and does it trigger a spark of inspiration? Now, if it doesn't, reroll.
Yep. Or just move up or down a line, right?
Yeah. If the answer is difficult to interpret for your situation, you can always check up or down one roll, or you can just reverse your digits.
Because you rolled 2d10. Maybe it wasn't.
Your 37 turns into 73. Real easy.
No problem.
Yeah.
Nice and simple.
Yeah. And once you've got your answer, you're good to go.
Yep. And now you run.
Play it out. See what happens. If you need anything further,
come back.
Give the Oracle a call. Yeah. And if you're having trouble, you can always roll again or try a different table. The game wants you to fall back on your instincts.
That's right.
What do you feel is going to happen?
Exactly.
Be perfectly honest with yourself.
Yeah. Your story's hanging on it, right? Like,
you are a hero in this story, but you are not an omnipotent
you're not immortal.
hero.
You've got flaws like everybody else does.
You are flesh and blood, and you are very squishy.
For sure. I love the concept of having basically automation built into the game, right? Like, okay, I've run into a brick wall. I'm having a moment where I can't think of what it is. Simple.
I've got the worst case of writer's block right now, and I want to progress.
Bam. Open up the tables, make a roll. It gives you like a keyword like homestead. And it's like, oh, yeah, you know what? That's right. They do have a homestead. I got to get to that homestead.
And it's just enough to get those juices rolling that you can get going on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the book comes built with all those tables in it. I would go so far to say there's also like people created oracles that are out there. The game also identifies how you can make your own, right? It also says like, hey, if you need to make your own oracle table, here's how you make your own oracle table, because it's designed around ensuring that you've got what you need to get done what you need to do with the game.
And all they are D100 tables.
Nice and simple.
If you only have 6 items, make 6, split your D100 up 6 ways.
And away you go.
And bada bing, bada boom.
Nice and simple.
You're done. Yeah. And that's it. That's Ironsworn.
That's Ironsworn in a nutshell. And
in a nutshell.
Just so you know, we glossed over a lot of stuff. I would really recommend that you grab a copy of the book, flip through it for yourself, take a look through all the different, companions and the paths and the, all of that stuff, because those are where the real crunchy bits of the game is, right? There's a lot to uncover. It's 300. It's a 300-page book with additional addendums and stuff like that. There's also extra PDFs and there's other stuff on the website. Go and get yourself familiarized with it.
Yeah, you can download it off of
Drive-Thru-RPG
or right off of his website.
Yeah, you can just go straight to Sean's website. Both links will be sitting in the description for you. So you'll have nice, easy access to it. Finn, what did you think, man? Where are you landing with Ironsworn?
I am really liking this game. I love the simple D6 versus 2D10 system.
Yep.
That is so crisp.
It's good.
I really like the fact that it is a solo RPG. I have been interested in playing solo RPGs for a little while now, and I haven't found one to spark my interest yet.
Right.
This might be where I start.
This might be the moment.
Yeah, and the Oracle is hands down 100% my favorite thing about this. And I will be stealing it to put into my own games,
for sure,
because that is a huge source of inspiration for a GM.
Yeah.
Just on the fly, if you need something, hit that, roll your D10, your 2D10, hit the table, bam, you got inspiration coming out of the wazoo.
Yeah, even if you're just like creating your own campaign setting stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like,
just trying to figure out what's happening or where things are or what the region feels like, right? Stuff like that even, or anything really, because that's what it is. It's designed. It is a everything generator.
Writer's block breaker.
That's right. What about you?
So, I mean, I mentioned at the beginning, like, this is the first solo RPG we've done, right? So this is really cool. I love the concept of solo play. As somebody who doesn't really have a local group to play with, that's really cool, right? Because I can essentially set something up and away we go. There's a downside with it, which is essentially that in order to do it properly, you kind of have to have it set up and either play at it for a period of time, a good long period of time, or come back to it in bursts, right? So you play a half an hour to 45 minutes and then you walk away. If I was only doing 30 to 45 minutes and then setting it up and taking it down, there's probably 15 minutes of setup that's involved. And by the time you kind of get everything all ready to rock and roll. So I think that having a dedicated space where you could just you have a map, you've got your cards, you've got your other stuff all set up and ready to rock and roll. You just kind of sit down and do your thing. That would be the ideal way to do it, I think, right? I really like some of the mechanics in here, right? And I like those tactile features. A game that comes with cards, I'm all in on that. I love having stuff. Right. And having it built that way is super cool. I got to take a point away here for the art in the book. Art, it's fine. Right. And you don't get these books for the art. I understand that.
Yeah. Well, some of us.
But with that being said, I mean, it's stock photos that's used throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's great. It does the job for what it does. I would have liked to see a little bit of artistic kind of flair there. Maybe for future editions, there might be something there. I don't know, but
something more like Into the Odd, where it's still stock photos.
It's a little different, right?
Together.
I was always kind of left going like, I guess that's, I get it, right? It's like a girl holding a sword, right? There's not like any, it's their stock photos, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not amazing.
It's because of the way the game is.
That's right.
It's a basic
That's
game.
right. It's just there for a little bit of inspiration. The biggest downside, in my opinion, man, this game is complicated. There is a lot going on between the covers of this book, between the stats and the moves and the various game elements and all of the different like crunchy bits, the companions, the paths, and the there's a lot going on. I'm sure after a while it would click and you would just start going with it, but it's going to be rough at the very beginning, right? And so take advantage of all the shortcuts that have been provided in the form of, the default setting and the array and all of the other things for how it's kind of designed to build the game in a more straightforward kind of idea. But I mean, those, in my opinion, that's kind of really like nitpicky stuff, right? All in all, I loved this game. I thought this was really cool. The more I dove into it, I was like, yeah, I like this. This is really sweet. And I mean, it's free. You got nothing to lose.
You can't beat free.
Download the book, give it a shot. If you don't like it, I mean, you're not out anything.
This is our 5th free RPG in a row. I gotta say,
I love the fact that there are so many free RPGs available out there. This one, the other ones we look at, like the ultralights, the one pagers, you can't charge a whole lot for it, but this one's 300 pages.
Yeah, this one's a substantial
a large
thing.
Book for free, and we should be thankful.
There's a lot of content here.
Yeah, we should be thankful to Sean for creating and giving it away. So very cool. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that brings us to the next section, which is the post-pod. Post-pod.
We'll get there one day.
It's happening. It's happening organically, and I'm here for it. Finny, this one was your post-pod question.
Yeah. So what's one piece of advice you wish you had known when you started as a player and as a DM?
So I thought that was or. I was ready for my DM, but I wasn't ready for the player.
No. I want both.
So advice I wish I had known when I started. I can give you DM for sure. I wish I would have known that you do not need to prepare every tiny little decision. Right. The last campaign that we ran, right, which I would say was probably my most successful DMing that I have done. My first map that I created, I went intricate. I said, if they go left, then here's what happens. If they go right, here's what happens. If they open this door, if they do this, if they step here, if they do that. And it was so crunchy. And I remember spending so much time on building it and being like, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what happened. And then instead of turning left at the first door, you guys are like, we're going to go right. And you skipped an entire level of the dungeon that way. And I was like, I didn't expect that, because one door was obviously the right choice and one door was obviously the bad choice. And you guys were like, well, let's get the bad choice out of the way. And I was like, oh, I did not see that happening. So I the piece of advice I wish I had known was exactly that. Like you need to be prepped, but you do not need to have every single decision under your belt, right? From a player point of view, I don't know. I mean, the number one advice I give to most players, because players will be like, well, what's the best class to play? And I'm like, that's not how this game works. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Some of my very first characters were min-max characters where I looked online and I was like, how to be the best paladin. Right. And that's a recipe for failure, right? As soon as you're doing that, you're immediately not going to have fun in your game. The best characters I've ever created have been horribly flawed characters that maybe mechanically they're not the best, but thematically they're great characters. They have souls. I have the ability to jump into that character and act that character out, right? The number one piece of advice I would have for players in that regard, don't worry about the online, the handbooks that are out there and all that other stuff, because there is no such thing as the best paladin in Dungeons and Dragons. There's a mechanically best paladin in Dungeons and Dragons, but it might not fit well into your game. And mechanically means nothing if it doesn't fit into the game.
Yeah.
I don't know, Finn. What about you?
My DM, the first piece of advice is probably as a DM, relax.
Don't stress.
Just relax. It's going to be fine. If you have a table put together and if you know these people, relax. Who cares?
The stakes have never been lower.
They will enjoy their time with you no matter what. If it's a table of strangers, okay, there's a little more stress there, but still, it will be better if you just take a breather and just go with the flow.
Always remember that the players will likely drive the story.
That's right.
You simply just help kind of aim them
a little.
Right? You aim the chaos in a direction and let it go.
You put the blinders on a little bit and go. And as a player, very much the same thing. Just take it easy. Do what you want.
Yeah. It's your character.
Don't do what everybody else wants. Do what you want to do.
Yep.
Even if that is sitting on the clearly cursed throne, sit on it.
100%.
Do it because the GM or DM put that there for a reason. Now, why would you take that away from them?
That's right.
Honestly.
Yep.
And I do that. If there's something like a pond in the middle of a map that the GM clearly put there, I'm going to throw a rock in there.
Absolutely. The game's as fun as you make it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got to be fun.
That's what it is.
Some of those moments are the most fun I've ever had with my characters.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Always pull the lever. Always push the button.
Pull the lever. Push the button. Step on the stone. Yep.
And your worst case scenario makes for a good story, right?
Worst case scenario, you make a new character, which after you dip your toe into the TTRPG scene, you're going to have a million characters anyway.
You start to realize that it's really fun to make new characters. It's less fun to carry them all the way through.
Yeah. That's all I got,
That's it. That's all for another episode of Masters of Pen and Paper. I want to thank each of you personally for listening to this episode. If you've gotten all the way to the end here, we'd love to hear from you. We have multiple ways to get in touch with us.
Through our email mastersofpenandpaper@gmail.com. As well, we have a Discord server. We have a very great community there. There will be a link down in the description to there. We've got like a TTRPG Dungeon Dragons channel going, and it's popping now. We got some good stuff going on in there
all the time.
Yeah,
it's great. Also, if you're interested in helping us out, we would appreciate if you would like and review the podcast. It does help with our reach on the platforms. As well, honestly, the easiest way to help us out is just let your friends and family and anyone else know that Masters of Pen and Paper podcast is here, where we're talking about all kinds of different TTRPGs, and it greatly helps us out from that point of view. You can also find us live on Twitch and YouTube. We stream every Sunday night Dungeons and Dragons at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And you can find that at twitch.tv/DGOnline and at youtube.com/@DadGamingOnline, where this podcast is also posted on that same channel. You can also find the podcast on Spotify and Apple, wherever other podcasts are found. For one last time, thank you very much for listening to this, and we will catch you on the next episode, episode 18. Have a great one, everyone.
Thanks, guys.